Good Friday evening, and thank you so much for joining us for Friends at 5. I'm Darci Strickland.
And I'm Alicia Nieves. A man accused of killing a North Carolina mom and injuring two of her kids was arrested in Lexington County.
25-year-old Byron Watkins was arrested early this morning. The mother was killed in Monroe, North Carolina. That's outside of Charlotte earlier this month. This morning, U.S. Marshals arrested one of the suspects nearly 100 miles away in Casey.
News 19's Jenna Krzina has the details.
Police bystanders after two people were killed on I-77 South near Blythewood on Friday morning at 1:45 Friday.
We apologize. That obviously is not the right story. Hopefully we'll be able to hear from Jenna in the next couple of minutes. That was Nick Jones following up on a fatal accident early this morning on I-77. And so we'll hear from Nick again in just a couple of minutes.
But back to the initial story. Police in North Carolina say Watkins and another man who were arrested killed the mother from North Carolina in front of her 5 children July 12th. Lucero Sosa Capote, her 5 children, they are all under the age of 13. One of her sons says her last words to them were, "I love you." He says his mom tried to fight off the intruders and put herself in front of the 2 men to make sure her kids weren't hurt. Several days after her death, some of her children talked to reporters.
And about her, she was always so nice, so sweet to everyone. Everyone she talked to, she was always so happy.
She's in a better place right now, and it was wrong for somebody to do that.
The 5 children are now living with their grandparents. Police say the crime was a random attempt by the suspects to break into the home and get money. A second man wanted in the deadly home invasion turned himself in Wednesday. He's 19-year-old Antoine Sturdivant. Both are charged with murder, burglary, and robbery.
The murder suspect who escaped from jail yesterday is now back behind bars. He's 32-year-old Stephen Stinnett. Officials say he escaped around 7 o'clock last night when a riot broke out after an inmate set a mattress on fire in the Sumter County Jail. They say as correctional officers were taking the inmates out of their cells to avoid the smoke, a few inmates escaped to the outdoor recreation area. Officials say that's when Stinnett was able to escape over a fence. Investigators say they believe the incident was planned and that Stinnett may have been the ringleader. Deputies say he was caught about a mile from the detention center around 4 o'clock this morning. He had minor injuries from climbing the fence and might have been bitten by a snake. News 19's Kaylin Hagwood has more on the manhunt and reaction from neighbors.
Investigators say this is the wooded area Stinnett escaped through after scaling a fence and leaving the Sumter County Detention Center. That led to a 9-hour manhunt involving 30 deputies, an aviation team, tracking dogs, and police.
I was extremely concerned, and that's why I utilized all resources that were available to us at that time.
Alton Mealer lives nearby.
When I bought this house a year and a half ago, that was one of the concerns. But I thought it'll never happen. But guess what? It happened. They had my street blocked off. I felt kind of protected, though, because there was police cars everywhere.
Investigators say Stinnett hid in a vacant home, stripping away part of his jail uniform and possibly getting bitten by a snake in his travels.
He felt safe when he did not hear the aviation team, and that's when he was able to come out and we observed him and we able to arrest him.
A little unnerving to start with, but like I said, I'm a gun person. I believe in carrying guns, so I don't think he would want to come by and see me last night.
Sheriff Dennis says they do plan to work with state officials to come up with any additional safety measures needed to make sure this does not happen again. Reporting in Sumter, Kaylin Hagwood, News 19, WLTX.
Well, Stinnett has been moved to another jail. That location has not been released. He was in the Sumter County Jail after law enforcement charged him with the murder of 31-year-old Jerry Lamars Johnson. Johnson had been reported missing in April of last year. Law enforcement tell News 19 a day later, Johnson's body was found by a fisherman in a cove near Indian Bluff Park and Lake Marion in Orangeburg County. Investigators say they believe Stinnett shot and killed Johnson. They say he then buried Johnson in 2 different locations before moving his body to Lake Marion. 4 other people were also arrested and charged with accessory after the fact.
Well, here in the Midlands, we can get used to these cooler temperatures in July. And the big question is, how much longer are these going to last, Daniel?
Not very long, obviously. It was another pleasant start to our day. Had temperatures drop down into the mid to upper 60s and low 70s here in the capital city. That'll be the case, it looks like, once again for tomorrow, but gradually the heat and humidity will return to the area. Temperatures right now generally in the mid to upper 80s. These have been our highs so far today. 85 degrees in Columbia, 86 in Orangeburg, 87 degrees in Sumter, 91 degrees right now in Florence. So that is the warm location across the Palmetto State. This is what we're expecting over the next 6 hours, probably mid 80s until about 7, 8 o'clock or so. And then temperatures will drop. Having outdoor plans, the weather should cooperate. We're expecting partly cloudy skies early in the evening and then mostly clear skies later tonight. By midnight or so, you're talking about a temperature of around 74 degrees. This is what we're expecting over the next 5 days. The weekend should be dry, seasonally hot with high temperatures generally in the low 90s, 92 degrees on Sunday and Monday. Then things start really warming up. 94 on Tuesday, a small chance for a pop-up shower or storm on Wednesday with highs in the mid-90s. There's your 5-day forecast. Traffic's been pretty busy so far this afternoon. We've had a number of problems on the roads. Good news is in the downtown Columbia area, pretty quiet. There's Gervais Street. Here's Assembly Street. See some slow traffic on Bull Street. We'll take a little bit of a wider view and show you got a couple of accidents over towards I-20 and I-26. This is I-20 westbound. That is near exit 65. Then I-26 eastbound. Got an accident there. That is at Bush River Road. And then I-20 eastbound got another accident over on Augusta Road. So some slow traffic in this area. Also have some slow traffic down near Calhoun County, I-26 east and westbound. Slow traffic coming in and out of town there as well. So keep those couple of problems in mind if you are traveling this evening. 277 to Clemson Road, about 6 minutes or so. If you're traveling from downtown to Lexington, about 22 minutes, and downtown to Lower Richland Boulevard, take you about 16 minutes to make that commute. We'll take a much closer look at your weekend forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Ladies.
New details have been released by investigators after 2 people were killed on I-77 South near Blythewood on Friday morning. At 1:45 Friday morning, a Chevrolet SUV and a Hyundai collided with each other near exit 27. After the crash, the driver of the Hyundai was standing outside of their vehicle when another SUV hit them and their car. The driver of that SUV then got out of their car, and the driver was hit by a 4th car, a Honda. 4 people were inside the Honda at the time and were taken to the hospital, but all are expected to be okay. Richland County Coroner Gary Watts identifies one of the victims as 63-year-old Manuel Ito from Georgia. The autopsy found Ito died of blunt force trauma from being hit by a car. In Blythewood, Nick Jones, News 19 WLTX.
Well, that second victim was identified late this afternoon as 40-year-old Tyrone Cornelius Fogel of Columbia.
A Midlands woman has been missing for 4 years. Investigators are hoping you might have information about where she is. Her name is Paulette Scott. She was 41 at the time of her disappearance, but would now be 45 years old. She was last seen March 25, 2015, near her mother's home in St. Matthews. An incident report filed around that time says she had recently moved in with her mother. The day she went missing, investigators say Scott said she was going outside of the home to get some air and has never been seen or heard from since. If you know where she is or if you have any information about this case, contact the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office.
In the upstate, a new decision by one city council means a police officer's monument will stand. The TKK City Council decided to keep the police officer's prayer monument. It will be located at the new police station. Today, officials said the decision was made after careful consideration and much conversation. You may recall the word Lord in the monument's poem upset some members of the community. And at that point, they decided to remove the word Lord. And then there were still a number of people who were upset. And then they said, I believe it was the county administrator said, you know what, we're just going to move it all together. But now even that decision has been changed.
Coming up next on Friends at 5, have you started your holiday shopping yet? The must-have toys are already being talked about. We're going to have that story, and we'll need you to weigh in on this coming up. The holiday shopping season may seem like it's months away, but toy makers, distributors, and especially social media influencers are picking their favorite toys now.
Christmas is less than 5 months away.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, Diane King Hall attended a popular toy event in New York City to get a sense of the hottest items hitting stores this fall.
Oh, yes. A parent's worst nightmare. Pop Pop Snots is expected to be a hit this year, but if you're not into splattering slime, the Sweet Sweet toy event in New York City offered plenty of alternatives. We found Baby Shark, Juno dolls, a new high-tech Pictionary, and the PJ Masks. Yeah. There's also a growing number of toys straight from YouTube influencers themselves, like Ryan Toys Review. The second grader has over 20 million subscribers who've been watching him unbox and play with toys for years.
Kids are really plugged into YouTube. That's where they're getting their content, and so that's where we want to make sure you can see all these amazing toys as well.
Another YouTuber, the Tic Tac Toy family, is launching toys for the first time this year. The family produces skits for nearly 3 million subscribers.
Whoa! These are XOXO.
Okay.
We have 24 baby animals we can collect.
Not all influencers have products to peddle. 11-year-old Linda Lee Rose has been coming to events like this since she was 4, reviewing toys for her YouTube channel.
Do your classmates know that you're on YouTube, and how do they react to that?
Yes, they all know, and they're always like, oh, are you famous? Oh, are you famous? And I'm like, kinda, I don't know.
Then the junior reporter had a few questions of her own.
Have you had any of the food here yet?
I haven't, I want to.
It's very good.
Oh. The brands hope this interactive toy preview will influence the influencers and help drive holiday sales. Diane King Hall, CBS News, New York.
All right, so that brings us to our megaphone question of the day.
Have you already started your holiday shopping? Your choices are, it's already done, some of it is done, or I've got nothing. And I've got nothing because it's July.
Yeah, mark me down on that got nothing list too. I've got some ideas.
Well, that's already a head start.
Right, so I've got a few ideas. I do miss the days when I could just go into Toys R Us and clear off a shelf and then the kids would be happy. Now it's, oh, can I get a new iPad or a new Apple Watch or a new, like, don't you want a doll? Nobody in this house wants to play with a doll. What happened here?
Those
What's
were the
going
good old
on?
days. And weren't the Apple Watches a big thing last Christmas?
They got Apple Watches last year, so now they want an upgrade on their phone, or I just want them to have like one of my favorite toys, and you tell me what yours was. One of my favorite toys was this mannequin head. This doll that was a mannequin head, and I could braid her hair, could put beads on it, and shampoo it, and like that was a good toy.
That's a solid
I remember
toy.
being like 12 or 13 with that toy. And now when you're 12, 13, or 14, you have an iPad and an iPhone and an Apple Watch and braid this doll's hair. What was your favorite
See, that's
toy?
something you can take with you for
Yes,
life.
like real life skills. What was your favorite toy?
I would say it would have been Barbies. Barbies were really popular in my toy box. I remember paper dolls. I loved the paper dolls. You can change their outfits.
Yes.
And then I was really crazy for a little bit. My grandfather made me a dollhouse. He made it piece by piece, every shingle. He glued it himself. He made for the next, I would say, few years, I was there buying, furnishing the bathroom, furnishing the bedroom. But yeah, you're right. Now it's all electronics, and they seem to be getting different and bigger every year and more expensive.
And like we weren't smashing snot. Isn't that what that
looked pretty cool though.
I did not think that was cool at all. All I saw was that in my carpet. But like those were toys that at the end of the day you like learned something. You had like, I'm not trying to bash the electronics because I mean there is some value in that as well, but the paper dolls, like you had to work with your fingers and make these things happen. And I remember I had that Barbie dollhouse that was like 3 stories, and then it had the elevator and you could pull the elevator up and down.
I would still play with that.
I mean,
if that was in the newsroom, I would play with that.
I'm not saying you'd be playing alone, sis. I'm saying I might be right there next to you.
So then, with your ideas, when do you actually start your shopping?
Well, I don't know. They're so expensive. I don't know. Probably maybe September or October.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Because you got to kind of save up, and if you're getting 3, for me, it's 3 of almost everything. So yeah, probably September is when I really start. Like, all right, what is it you want? What do you want Santa to bring you this year? What is it that you want Santa to bring you? How about you?
Yeah, I would say that's about the same. Our deal boss, he did a couple of deals on smartwatches last year. And when there's a good deal and it happens to be in September, I think I'll go for it. But the thing is, I find myself, it's so hard for me to keep a secret. Like, I really want to tell Mom that, I got her this, beautiful bracelet with, this and this on it,
Yeah.
So if I have to keep a secret longer, it's just tougher for me. But I'll live.
Can I talk about
I'll
my
keep it.
Christmas in July, like yesterday? Like, I am living my best life today because of Alicia and Tanya Rodriguez Hodges. So Alicia got all this extra makeup, right? And she brings me this whole bag of makeup. So lipstick, compliments of Alicia. And then I got a new watch yesterday, compliments of Tanya, because she upgraded hers and she told me she was tired of seeing my little Fitbit. Kind of insulting,
Tanya,
but in the
but
same
the makeup
breath.
looks beautiful.
Well, thank you. It's your makeup. You pick the colors.
But you look better in it. All right, stay with us, everybody. Meteorologist Daniel Bonds has your forecast next.
Okay, iPhone users, Apple is releasing its newest iOS update in the fall, but a growing claim online says the new software will make older iPhones stop working.
We've had our verified team breaking down the facts. Here's Jason Puckett.
Okay, iOS 13, Apple's newest operating system for mobile devices, comes out sometime this fall. Apple highlights new features like a dark mode, the ability to type by swiping from key to key, and performance updates. But at the bottom of the page, you'll notice a compatibility list. These devices will work with the new updates, but what about the phones not on the list? Well, there are some confusing headlines like this that claim the new iOS will kill off the iPhone 6. We even had a viewer tell us he heard that directly from an Apple Store employee. So what's the truth? Well, as the list shows, iOS 13 won't work on iPhone 6 or anything older. But key point, that doesn't mean those phones stop working. The language here gets a bit confusing. iPhone 6s and older won't get the snazzy new features of iOS 13, but the software they're running right now won't change. And most importantly, they can still use all cellular services like calling, texting, surfing the web on the go, and more. How do we know? Well, we checked with Apple and major cell providers. They all confirmed older iPhones still work as phones, they just can't use the newest features. They've actually been doing this for a while now. iOS 12, for instance, the current operating system, was only compatible back to the iPhone 5S. So if that all sounded like a bunch of tech mumbo jumbo to you, don't worry. The bottom line is that if you're holding an iPhone 6 or a model older than that, your phone won't be changed at all by the new update. You can still call, text, and whatever else you do to your heart's content, but you may see people with newer phones using some cool features you won't have access to. If you want those features, you're gonna have to shell out some moolah to upgrade to one of these phones. With your Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.
Are you gonna say it? No.
I said, who has a phone older than a 6?
The good news is they're gonna work, even if it's really old.
Is it flipping open if it's older than a 6?
You know what? I do miss flipping my cell phone. Daniel, do you miss flipping your cell phone?
I never had a flip phone, honestly. I had a bag phone way back in the mid-90s, though, and my dad still has a flip phone, so I do see one occasionally. We're also seeing some pretty pleasant weather outside right now. Temperatures generally in the mid to upper 80s, 88 degrees in Manning, 85 in St. Matthews, Columbia, 86 degrees, Winsboro, Camden, Bishopville, Newberry as well. So not a bad end to our work week. We had a couple of stray showers up in the northwestern half of the Midlands area up towards Newberry County. Stray shower there for the most part. It's been a dry end to our work week. See pretty good conditions all across the the Midlands and the coast of South Carolina. A few showers off our coast.
Welcome back for the second half hour of Friends at 5. I'm Darci Strickland.
And I'm Alicia Nieves. A man accused of killing a North Carolina mom and injuring 2 of her kids was arrested in Lexington County.
25-year-old Byron Watkins was arrested early this morning.
The mother was killed in Monroe, North Carolina, outside Charlotte earlier this month. And this morning, U.S. Marshals arrested one of the suspects nearly 100 miles away in Casey. News 19's Jenna Kurzina has the details.
A 2-state manhunt is now over after ending in Casey early Friday morning. 25-year-old Byron Watkins is wanted in North Carolina. He is accused of killing a mother of 5. Watkins was arrested at a residence here off of Congaree Road. Watkins is now back in North Carolina. He is charged with homicide by the Monroe Police Department in connection to a home invasion that happened on July 12th. The U.S. Marshals Operation Intercept Fugitive Task Force joined the investigation after investigators learned Watkins had crossed state lines from North Carolina to South Carolina. The search for Watkins began Thursday. Investigators believed he was hiding at a relative's home in Lancaster County. After interviews and conversations with a confidential source, investigators were led to a home in Lexington. This has been a multi-agency investigation, including the U.S. Marshal's Office, Richland, Orangeburg, and Lexington County Sheriff's Offices, SLED, and the Columbia Police Department. Watkins is expected to have multiple charges, including first-degree murder, first-degree burglary, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and assault on a child under 12. Watkins was being held at the Lexington County Detention Center and waived his right to appear in court. He has since been extradited back to North Carolina. In Lexington County, Jenna Kurzina, News 19 WLTX.
We're hearing more today about the dramatic rescue of a man trapped in a grain silo for 8 hours. News 19's Michael Fuller has the story from Orangeburg.
So today, many are saying an incident involving a man who was trapped inside of a silo for over 8 hours before being rescued alive is nothing short of a miracle. Now, the success of that mission is being attributed to the brave men and women who performed that rescue and the life-saving equipment that was a game changer. One of those pieces of equipment includes a structure that was built around the man within the silo.
These are interlocking grain bin panels. They're designed for grain bin rescue. And they interlock together, and when you slide them in place around the patient, you lock them around and it holds the grain back. By us putting these panels in and interlocking them around him, it allows us the ability to move that grain and hold the rest of the grain back.
And the folks of the operation say they don't do it for the glory or the honor, but for the love of the job and to serve the community one day at a time. Reporting for Street Squad Orangeburg, I'm Michael Fuller.
Well, as you just heard from Michael, that success in this rescue comes from their equipment. This was not the first accident at that location. In May of 2008, an employee died after falling into a corn bin.
At that time, the facility was operated by Orangeburg Foods, a different company than the current owner. Back then, the victim was working in a bin with sloping sides when corn began sliding. He was carried into the chute at the bottom of the bin and suffocated after he was covered by corn.
We're going to go back to Michael Fuller. He has another part of this story more in depth on that life-saving equipment.
These are interlocking grain bin panels. They're designed for grain bin rescue. And they interlock together, and when you slide them in place around the patient, you lock them around and it holds the grain back. And they're small enough that we can put them into a space through a small opening, get them into the space, stand them up around the patient, and lock them in the middle, lock them in, and build a wall around the patient. Then what we do is we take equipment and then we start vacuuming or either moving the grain or whatever it is out from inside the wall to free the patient. By us putting these panels in and interlocking them around him, it allows us the ability to move that grain and hold the rest of the grain back. If you don't have them, it's just like digging in quicksand. Or digging in sand at the beach, the more you move it, the more it washes back in or it fills back in the hole. And these panels are vital because they keep that product back, so that once you move it from inside the panels, it holds that product back so you can do the work you need to do to free the patient.
Again, that is more information on that life-saving equipment that was used yesterday in order to save the man after he had been trapped over 8 hours. Again, as we mentioned just moments ago, that was not the first accident at that location. In May of 2008, an employee died after falling into a corn bin. At the time, the facility was operated by Orangeburg Foods, a different company than the current owner. Back then, the victim was working in a bin with sloping sides when the corn began sliding. He was carried into the chute at the bottom of the bin and suffocated after he was covered by corn.
I'm going to get a check of your forecast now with meteorologist Daniel Bonds.
Well, it's been a pretty pleasant day all across the area, and that was really the case ever since we had that cold front move through on Tuesday. Remember, Tuesday was pretty stormy. We had the showers in, those thunderstorms kind of rolled on through, and then high pressure is built in, really kept us quiet over the past few days. That's the case right now for South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. Have to go well off our coast to find any kind of rain. See these higher clouds there. There'll be some showers and thunderstorms well off the coast. 85 degrees in the capital city. Go further towards the west. It's a little bit warmer, 90 degrees in Macon and Albany, 89 right now in Augusta, Georgia. If you do have those weekend or at least outdoor plans for the next couple hours, the weather's going to be fine. You're talking about temperatures generally in the mid 80s. 6, 7 o'clock. As we get to 8 o'clock, temperatures will start to cool off a little bit, probably around 83 degrees by 8 o'clock this evening. Looking for high temperatures over the weekend, generally in the low 90s. Lots of sunshine. It should be dry as well, but these are temperatures pretty seasonable for this time of the year. Our average high temperature is about 93, so we'll be running pretty close to normal over the weekend. We'll take a closer look at what you can expect for the next 7 days coming up in just a few minutes. Guys.
All right, Daniel, thank you. You'll need to hear this before you make a salad for dinner. A new report out today discovered some leafy greens recently sold at supermarkets were contaminated with a potentially deadly bacteria. Kenneth Craig has the story from New York.
Consumer Reports tested 284 samples of fresh greens, including lettuce, spinach, and kale, recently sold at supermarkets. They found 6 of those samples tainted with listeria, a potentially deadly bacteria. 2 samples were packaged and pre-washed. The other 4 were loose ends or bunches.
Washing does not necessarily remove bacteria. The bacteria can get stuck to the leaves and adhere in microscopic crevices in the leaves.
Consumer Reports' Tricia Calvo says people at the highest risk of complications from listeria, the elderly, pregnant women, and young children, may consider not eating raw leafy greens.
The safest thing for them to do is to eat greens they can cook.
The tainted greens were sold at 4 different food retailers in Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York in June. Public health officials have not reported any illness or concerns following their inspections. Consumer Reports is not advising anyone to stop eating leafy greens, but instead wants consumers to pay attention to food safety.
One thing that you can do to protect yourself is to eat them as soon as you can after you buy them. What you don't want to do is give the bacteria a chance to grow.
A trade association that represents retailers, wholesalers, and suppliers that sell products to grocery stores says the incidents outlined in Consumer Reports remind us that the entire supply chain has a responsibility for safe food handling. Calvo says one way to minimize bacteria risk is to avoid raw greens at restaurants. Kenneth Craig, CBS News, New York.
Well, exposure to listeria can cause the disease listeriosis, which usually requires hospitalization and then could lead to death.
A person died from a rare brain-eating amoeba after swimming at a water park in North Carolina. Investigators say it happened at the Fantasy Lake Water Park in Cumberland County. The infection was caused by the amoeba naturally present in warm, fresh water during the summer. Health experts say the amoeba has infected 145 people in this country since 1962 and through 2018.
So we wondered, what do you need to do to keep yourself safe? News 19's Rosemary Belts is here to talk about the infection. Rose.
First off, serious infections from this amoeba are rare. Officials with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services say this brain-eating amoeba is called Naegleria fowleri. The CDC says the single-celled organism is found around the world in warm, fresh water, like hot springs, lakes, unchlorinated pools, and rivers. The organism infects people by entering the body through the nose. It then travels up the nose to cause a rare and usually fatal brain infection called amoebic meningoencephalitis, or PAM, P-A-M. Most people who get the infection die within a week. However, millions of people are exposed to the amoeba each year, yet only a handful of them ever get sick. Health officials don't know why some people develop infection and others don't. You cannot get infected by drinking water contaminated with Naegleria, and it cannot be spread from one person to another. Individuals can only be infected when contaminated water goes up into the nose. If you're concerned, health officials offer a few suggestions. Avoid swimming or boating in fresh water like hot springs, lakes, ponds, or rivers where the infection is more common. Keep your head out of the water while swimming. Plug your nose or use a nose clip while swimming, and be careful not to stir up sediment in shallow areas. More Friends at 5 after the break.
If you're looking for some down-home fun this weekend, check out the 4th Annual South Congaree Championship Rodeo. This rodeo runs tonight and tomorrow night with events beginning around 7:30. There will be food vendors, pony rides, and even a mechanical bull. The rodeo promises to be fun for the whole family. If you like seafood, then you're in luck. This weekend in Columbia, the Southeast Crab Fest is here to satisfy all your shellfish cravings. The event offers all-you-can-eat fresh blue crab, one side of fish and chips, live music, and more. It's being held at Saluda Shoals Park. Tickets are still on sale for the 2 sessions. Those start at 1 p.m. until 3:30 or 4 p.m. until 6:30. If you're looking to support a worthy cause, lace up your shoes because the Richland County Sheriff's Department is hosting a 5K run tomorrow night. It's kicking off at 10:30 at the South Carolina State Fairgrounds. The 5K is being held to raise funds for the Richland County Sheriff's Department's K-9 unit. The funds will be used for the dog's food, medication, and custom-fit ballistic vests. Stay with us. More Friends at 5 is after this.
Okay, so our megaphone question of the day is, have you already started your holiday shopping? And 3 out of 4 of you are like, nope, not a thing. Hadn't even thought about it.
It's too early.
Yeah, it's Christmas in July. Who wants to do that?
But I guess there's an audience for it if all the influencers are talking about these toys.
Yeah. So get in early if you've got some special toys that you want to get for your kids.